Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. Hang on, because we're going to get some real inspiration, some real positivity coming today. And it's an interesting blend how he's done this as a golf pro for many years and instructor. He is at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio, owner of DeckerGolf.com. He's blended that game with that inspiration, that spirituality, and he's done that in such a fabulous way in a few books, one of them being this one, which is called Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. And he's back with us. John Decker joins us here on the program. Hey, John.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And I got to tell you, I love the book. I find a little nugget of inspiration, information every time I open it up. And for those who have minimal attention spans, every chapter is short, which is just wonderful. You feel like it's a feeling of accomplishment, whereby I have books sitting on my coffee table at home that I've gotten 12 pages in, and it's almost like looking up a mountain because before I can even feel accomplished in one chapter, I've got, 50 something pages plus to get through. Where did it happen in your life? And I know you started going to church at a very young age and playing golf too. Where did it happen where you felt there was a blend between the game and spirituality?
It all started, Steve, when I started teaching at the Grand Cypress Academy of Golf in Orlando, Florida. And I was we're talking about the early 90s, early to mid 90s. And when I would stand up in front of students and start teaching them, I suddenly started having stories from my life just start flooding into my mind. I didn't know what was going on because it was like I was having conversation and I was being downloaded information simultaneously, and it did not affect my interaction. I mean, normally I would be distracted if something like that happened. But in this case, I was able to perform my duties at work and take all this information in. And this happened every day that I would teach. It always happened when I would teach, and it went on for years and years and years. And I knew that I was supposed to write a book. I knew that I was supposed to have a Christian element to the book. And that took me, I didn't start that process until 2012. So this went on for quite a long time.
Your stories in the book and also what you shared in the times that we've gotten together resonate. Like, I still remember the roof story.
Yes.
And that was like a month ago. Because the way you deliver them is just like the book. As we speak here, it's to the point. You're not rushing anything, but you feel that story. And today you wanted to focus on the epilogue of the book, right?
Yes, the epilogue. And for my first book, which was published in 2016, I did not have an epilogue. I had never even thought of putting an epilogue in my first book. And then a couple years later, in 2018 or so, I was driving in my car. I had no thoughts of writing another book at this point in my life. I was driving in my car, and I was coming to a stoplight, and I noticed that there was a homeless man there. And I reached into my glove compartment and pulled out some money and gave him some of my change. And as I drove away, God started downloading to me this poem. And so I went immediately home and I sat down and I wrote the poem out. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. I thought to myself, I'm not a poet. I've never thought of writing a book about poetry. So why do I have this poem? So I kept it on my computer. I think I did post it on Facebook, and I thought it was it was so unique the way it happened that I knew that there was a purpose for it, but I didn't know what that purpose was. And so fast forward now to this summer, my second book, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time, is now completed. It's my publisher's in Los Angeles. I'm at church. Sitting there at church, and this was, I think, in July of this year, and I'm sitting there in church, and all of a sudden, God started downloading to me an epilogue. He basically, boom, 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 and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I've got to write an epilogue. Now, it's Sunday. My book is ready to be basically printed, and here I am going to add to the book. And I said, I thought to myself, my publisher's going to kill me. But I went home after church, and I wrote out this epilogue, and it's titled Somewhere in Between, and did it in probably maybe an hour or two. Wrote it out, and then I called my editor, and I said, I've got to. I'm going to email you this. Can you edit this for me? I sent it to him, and he edited it. And then I called my publisher the next day, and I said, you're going to probably kill me here, but I said, I've got an epilogue that I want to add to the book. And so they said, go ahead and send it to us. I sent it to them, and we got it into the book. And what was interesting is the very, very first thing that God gave me in 2018 was the very last thing that went into the book. And so God knew the beginning and the end, and he gave me the end first. And then the rest of the stuff that I wrote, a lot of the stuff I wrote this year went earlier in the book. So the book was like a puzzle that he gave me, and I didn't know the order. I didn't know how it was going to work out. I just kept putting the pieces that he gave me, and eventually it all came together. And to me, what was interesting is, I didn't know really the impact of the epilogue on the book, but Clark Kellogg, who is works for CBS Sports, an NBA basketball player, and just a great person. I give him lessons. He's a member here at the Medallion Club, and he read the book. And when we launched the book at the club, he said that the epilogue was his favorite part of the book, and I thought that was really, really awesome, because I thought there was a chance that epilogue was never even going to be in the book had it not been for God's unique planning and having it down to the very last detail.
I'm a big believer in those downloads. I've gotten them before.
Mm-hmm.
It was a year ago. I'm going to share it. I'll keep it very short.
Sure.
There was a situation with one of my kids, and I'm driving not more than 5 minutes from right here in this building, and I'm saying to myself, there has to be an answer. I know there's an answer. What is that answer? And I come to a stop sign, and I'm hearing the song Let It Be by the Beatles. There will be an answer. Let it be. And then I'm thinking a little bit deeper. Mother Mary comes to me. That's the lyrics. Many believe that the reference to Mary is biblical, but it's not. Mm-hmm. It's Paul McCartney's mom. My mom's name was Rose Mary. So I drive 5 minutes from that stop sign to right here. The phone rings, and it was the answer. And if you go look in the wall of the office right over here, I have the lyrics to Let It Be up there. Yeah. And that was one of many downloads. So I ask, when you got that for the epilogue, were you asking for something, or it just dropped out of the sky?
Not in this case. Sometimes I've asked and I've received those downloads, but no, in this case I did not. I wasn't asking, but when it hit me, it came in like 3 waves, and it was like boom, boom. Like it gave me, like God gave me the golf element to it. He gave me the spiritual element to it, and then he gave me the poem element to it. And as he was giving it to him, I just was saying, I was almost like in a trance. I was sitting there. People probably thought I was in a trance almost. And I thought to myself, oh, I see how I'm supposed to use that poem. And this was, this summer, and the poem was written in 2018. So it was I asked those questions back in 2018. What am I supposed to do with this poem? And he gave me the answer years later. So 6 years later? So that's in my case, and for that particular epilogue, no, it was not given to me right away. It was given to me over a 6-year span.
I'm working on something now that goes back to 2018, and it's something that will help others. And I need one little piece to finish this. So I'm waiting for the download.
Let it be. Let it be.
Yeah, you got that right. This poem, that's part of the epilogue.
Yes.
You said you weren't going to read it, but
if you want to read it, I don't. I have it behind me, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I just wrote what I was.
Well, you know what? If you're okay with it,
go ahead and read it. You go ahead and read it.
Cruising to the red light, I caught a glimpse of a man holding a cardboard sign. His face revealed a life, I'm sure, that was quite different than mine. Our eyes never met, but I'm willing to bet he saw me from afar. The light glaring red, guilt riding shotgun. Where's the change I keep in the car? Our eyes now meet, the transaction complete, and I sped away to pray. Thank God for the warm bed where I lay my head. to sleep my problems away. I struggle with my current state, my destination, comparing my life to the Joneses down the street, while the homeless carry their lives on their shoulders that are transported by 2 weary feet. Father, I am not rich, nor am I poor, and there's places I've never been. I live no life of luxury, but I'm grateful, thankful, and content living life somewhere in between. Wow. It does make you think, and it's funny, I'm in a men's group, and last night, the word grateful, we talked about gratitude and how important it is, and I have to say, you probably practice gratitude.
Yes, gratitude. We all have moments where in our life where we feel like we're on top of the world, and we forget how we got there, and we have pride, and pride steps in, but we all have been at the bottom, and I think it's when you've been at the bottom in life, and everyone out there listening, I know at some point in their life has been at the bottom. When you are at the bottom, you can look up to God and know that His faith in God and faith in Him will get you through this. And I believe that if you give your life to Jesus, that you will fulfill your purpose in life. You will find your purpose, but you'll find that peace, and that peace is so important in living your life. And so, gratitude is something that I try to remember every day. I try to stay humble. I like everyone, I get caught up in what's going on in this world, and I want to control it, and I want to dive right in and go to it. But sometimes your best feelings that you have in your life or when you think back to where you were when you were at the bottom, and you start realizing that God was with you at the bottom, He's with you at the top as well. So you have to always be grateful for what you have and who you have in your life.
It reminds me of something somebody told me, somebody who is very intuitive. And I was at a turning point in my life. I was leaving a job after almost 30 years, super successful. It was years ago. And I got him on the phone, and I helped him launch his career. And I said, well, what am I to do now? Like, I can't believe I'm leaving. And it was a mutual departure. Like, this is it just hit me. What am I going to do? It was almost like I was, balled up on the floor. And he said, when you're at your lowest point, that is when you're most humble, and also when you're most humble to receive messages or signs, or just realize life in general. But sometimes it does take those moments where you get that clarity. And to your point, when you look back, where have you been? Life is like this, no matter who you are. When you're, celebrity with bazillions of dollars, or that homeless man, life is always going to be like that.
Yes.
Ebb and flow. Yes.
When you're at rock bottom, you have 2 choices in life. You can give up, or you can look up. And I suggest to everyone out there that not to give up, but to always look up and look up to God and put your faith in Him, and He will not let you down. I promise you that.
Well, the one word you said there is so impactful: choice. We have everything in life is a choice. We may say, I can't believe what happened to me. Look what they did to me, all that. All right, you didn't ask for that. You didn't plan for that. You can't control that. However, you have a choice of how you're going to react to that. And if you make that intentional habit of making a choice where you're not going to let it affect you, eventually that's how I think you kind of roll after a period of time. That poem that you wrote, I want to reflect back, was that based on actually seeing somebody in that situation?
Yes, that's what triggered it, I believe. And I was really drawn to that man who I gave the money to, because I had been at a point where I was on top of the world and went through a really bad divorce where I lost everything. And literally, if it had not been for my family and my friends, I would have been out on the street myself. And so that's why when I see someone that's homeless, I think to myself, had it not been for my family and friends and the grace of God, that would be me. And so when I gave him the money, it triggered the poem in my head. It triggered the download that God gave me. And I went home and just immediately wrote it out. And then like I said, I didn't know what to do with it after that, but then later on, God told me what to do with it. So I'm very proud of that. For that to be the very ending of the book, I thought it worked out really well.
Yeah, and the words just flow so well. As I'm reading it, I feel like I'm saying it. I don't know if that makes any
Yeah,
sense, but it sounds like it's coming from me, even though it's
yeah,
your words. I've done a lot of charity work, and I remember working with a charity, and one gentleman who was the president, and just making sure everything's running well. I'll never forget this, but he said, "We're all, or we can be all, one paycheck away from being homeless. You never know what's going to happen." And it was about a month ago. I pull up to a convenience store. My daughter's in the car, and there was a man just obviously they were looking for some money. And I reach in to my console, like your glove compartment, and I gave him, I think it was $10. And my daughter said to me, "Why are you doing that? Why are you giving him money?" And I said, "I don't know. Something just told me I need to."
yeah.
And I just, pilot from that. Obviously he could use some money and I hope it was spent the right way, but that's not my choice. That's his. But
Yes.
something just said to me, and you see people like this all the time. I need to help him. I don't know what it is, but something is telling
Yes.
me I need to. And maybe that was a divine intervention. I don't know. I'll never know.
Well, you are being a light in this dark world, and that's what we're asked to do as Christians. We are asked to be a light in a dark world, and so we can all help and impact other people. And you never know the $10 or the $20 or even the change that you give someone, how that can change their life. And at least you don't do it just because you want to feel better about yourself. You're doing it to help other people, and hopefully that person will take that and use that to get out of that situation and not make their situation worse.
I don't want to make this sound like, we're here being preachy and,
Yeah,
put the rose colored glasses on for the positivity and all of that. But when you take a second and think about your life, many of us have so many things truly to be grateful for. A lot of times we focus on the negative, and that's a habit. You get into that habit of doing that. But if you can refocus it and look at the positive, it's my belief that even if you're in a challenging situation, hey, life isn't easy. Stuff pops up all the time. But if you're in that mindset, you could just turn your head, look that way for a moment and say, "Oh, well, I got that. Or I'm going to be doing that later. Wow, that's fantastic. I feel really good." But it takes that habit to make that habit of going down that road of a little more positivity. Did you ever think, back in the day, you'd be writing poetry that other people would be reading?
No, my grandfather was a poet, and he wrote 7 books on poetry. And so I had dabbled it in a little bit. Usually, when I would write poetry, is if I was in love, if I had those kind of feelings. But I never thought I would write anything that I would publish into a book. But yeah, I enjoy poetry. I like the title is somewhere in between. So I like to take the title somewhere in between and have that be the very last words of the poem. So you bookend it with the title and the ending. So if you notice there, that's what I do. So anytime I write poetry, that's the way I always write it.
So let me make sure I have that clear. So that's a title, but you always end it with the title.
Exactly. I don't put the title. I always like to bring it back to the title. So I think of them as bookends, and so in your world they would be bumpers. The beginning and the ending of your show.
You're talking broadcast speak. Yes, we have
Exactly.
bumpers, right?
Exactly.
Wow. How do you even know that? Where'd that come from? It's funny that many believe that we can manifest what we want in life. This creates your reality. And you said, you might have thought to write a poem when you're in love, but if you're not, why not write a poem anyway to that person that's not here, that you believe is eventually going to show up and change your life? There's so many reasons and ways that you can write. And poetry is healing. I'll be honest with you. Right before we got on, I did a podcast with a therapist in the Ukraine who is helping people heal from the war through poetry. And she was talking about some of the soldiers there with PTSD. And it can be in a, a therapy situation. Tell me how you're feeling and all. But what a difference when you just give somebody free reign to write. Don't worry about what it sounds like. You don't have to even make it rhyme, but it just the expression that comes out. And I see this here, how you wanted to express your gratitude for your life and also in helping somebody else at that time.
Yes. And some, talking about, manifesting our life and I'm a big believer that you will become in life what you think of yourself. So whatever you think of yourself, that is what you will become. And so if you believe that you're an achiever, if you believe that you're going to write a book, if you believe that you're going to play the game of golf and improve your game, you will do that if you put in the time and work. If you believe that you're defeated, that you're a loser, or whatever it is, whatever negative connotation you might have in your mind, then you will become that. And so golf is the ultimate of that. I mean, I can tell you how many times I've had pity parties out on the 15th hole because my day's not going well. And guess what? It doesn't get any better. If I have a bad attitude, my game still's terrible. If I have a good attitude, and even though I may be playing poorly, I may hit some good shots coming in and find some positive things to kind of look back on. Well, kind of life is like that. We're all at different stages in our life. If you think of your lifespan as a golf course, and 18 holes are on a golf course. Well, I'm on the back nine of my golf course. I've already played the front nine. I'm past the halfway point and I've started the back nine. So I'm on that part. So I can't really be affected on what happened in the front nine and what happened. It's over. And I also can't be thinking about what's on the last hole because I haven't gotten there yet. So I have to be focused on where my shoes are today, what I'm doing today. And to me, that mindset from golf translates to life. And I tried to portray that in the book. And I think that's very important.
There's so much in life right there that you just said. And one of them is live in the moment, because just like you said, if I'm looking forward, if I'm at the 13th and I'm looking at the 18th, I'm not there yet. Why am I bothering? And whatever happened on the first and second, it's already done. I can't change that. So here I am. Let me take care of that. And I am is probably the most powerful two words you can ever say in terms of that manifesting, where I am going to win this game. I am going to improve. If you change that mindset. I want to share one other thing with you that came up yesterday and opened my eyes, where we all look for a purpose in life. We all have a purpose. Some of us have found it. Some may not. They're still searching for it. But we have fear that gets in the way of a lot of the things we do in life. But somebody said yesterday that when you are practicing your purpose, don't have any fear, because it will always work out successfully, because that's what you are meant to do. And I look at you and I see that. You may have had fear along the way, moving your career forward. Should I, be an instructor? Should I do this? Should I do that? But that was your purpose. You were going to win anyway, either way. Yes. So I guess the takeaway is, if you feel you're in your purpose, don't worry. It's all going to work out. The universe, God, whatever, wants that for you, because you're doing what you were designed to do to help other people. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, when God has a purpose for your life, and we all have a purpose. I've always said, if you have a heartbeat, you have a purpose. Your purpose is, and I can't tell you what that is, only God knows. But ultimately, we're all seeking that purpose and trying to find that purpose. And so one of the biggest reasons why people don't find their purpose is because of fear. And fear is simply a lack of faith. It is a lack of faith in God, that God, who created this whole universe, can't get you through this difficult situation that you might be going through. But I don't have enough money in the bank, or I don't have enough skill, or I don't have the education. I told myself over and over again, no one would read my books. No one would want to. Why would I want to write a book? No one would read it. I had all these negative things going on, until I finally decided, I'm putting that fear aside. I'm going to write this book because I know that God's asking me to. And that was one of the biggest hurdles for me, and really as a man, probably where I developed the most, is when I finally put that fear aside. of this knowing feeling that I was supposed to write a book, and I spent all these years pushing it aside, kicking the can down the road until I finally got in front of the computer and started doing it. And so for the listeners out there, I know that some of you are probably experiencing things like this. Put your faith in God, trust God, and I promise you, He will get you through that. He will help you to find your purpose. You just have to ask.
Love it. Truly do. That's fantastic. Your website, deckergolf.com, is that where we can learn, obviously, more about you, but can we find the books there?
Yes, you can find the books there. The first book has an audio book as well. So I've, counting the audio book, 3 books there available on the website. You can also look at my golf instructional videos. I have hundreds of videos from full swing all the way down to short game. Speaking engagements, if you're interested in having me come to your church or to your community to speak, I can do that as well. You can reach out to me. All my contact information is on there as well. And if you want to do online instruction or gift certificates or anything like that, everything is on deckergolf.com.
One of my bucket lists is to learn how to play golf. Maybe this is the upcoming year when the weather gets warmer. That's going to be it. But either way, I don't play golf. I love the book. So there's so much inspiration in there. And even just the poem we read today, I won't forget that. And I don't think anybody will. And it's just like the roof story that you shared with you and your dad. And your faith came from that. I haven't forgotten it. John, thank you so much for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
Steve, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
As a child, my dream was to win the Masters. But in life, dreams don't always come true. God's plan for my life was to teach the sport that I love. My journey has led me to the highest levels of professional golf. I have been blessed to learn from the world's greatest teachers, including my mentor, Phil Rogers. Over time, God led me to become a Christian author. My second book, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time, was written to glorify God and His Son, Jesus Christ, and to show the world that through faith, God's dreams for your life will come true. To learn more, go to deckergolf.com.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.